let us move on to part 3 on crowdsourcing. And before we actually go into crowdsourcing, let me mention one project that also used human judgments, but not crowd workers, but experts. So WordNet by Miller and Feldbaum, it developed since the 1980s. It's a lexical resource still popular today. Contains is-a relationships. So here an elephant contains as subtypes the mammoth or the African elephant, synonyms and part of relationships. So for example, elephant have part trunk. WordNet has about 200,000 word senses and was created solely by two experts, so the two authors, Miller and Feldbaum, that worked over several years. It's an impressive result, and as said, since they are experts, the data is of high quality, very clean. Nonetheless, its limitations are it has some imbalances. So focus is decided only by the two authors, and there are some idiosyncrasies based on their specific background. And importantly, there's no notion of scoring or ranking. So for synonyms, we don't know which ones are the most popular ones. For subtypes, we don't know which ones matter most, and so on. And another project relying on expert annotation was the Psych project, very influential in artificial intelligence, also started in the 1980s. So they wanted to capture general world knowledge, common sense knowledge, but also encyclopedic knowledge, and also rules about world knowledge, like that people have birth dates and so on. And their approach was to hire experts for specific verticals. So they hired a person that worked for several months about the automotive industry, a person that worked several months on psychology, and so on. The project has been virtually discontinued, although the company is still around. Latest estimates were that they would need more than 1,000 person years to achieve the original goals, and so this is largely out of scale. And so instead, in the next projects, we will not look at expert annotation, but we will see how we can harness the power of lay people and large crowds of people. And so the first important project here is the Open Mind Common Sense project, which later turned into ConceptNet. So in the Open Mind Common Sense project, Catherine Havasi and others at MIT let volunteers collect general world knowledge by letting them fill sentences with blanks. And in the course of this project, about 14,000 people participated, and more than 700,000 English sentences were collected, which were then processed by simple NLP pipelines to get 300,000 concepts and 1.6 million assertions. And here we see a screenshot example statements collected for elephants. So elephants located in a circus in Africa, in a zoo in India. Elephant has a trunk, tusks, 4 legs, a long nose called trunk, and so on. And ConceptNet is still popular today for this kind of world knowledge. Since it's human created, it's very good in terms of saliency. So it captures really what humans think of. Still, it has some shortcomings in terms of redundancy. So for example, elephant is capable of lifting logs from the ground, to lift the tree, to carry a trunk. So these are more or less meaning the same. And they're also, again, idiosyncrasies. So elephant is capable of visiting the grocery store. I think that's a proverb or something. So data quality is still an issue. And here we see a screenshot of what the crowd interface looked like that the annotators filled in. So to collect knowledge about ocean, people were asked, you would find blank near the ocean, and then you could fill, you could find ports near the ocean, or you could find beaches near the ocean, an ocean is used for fishing or swimming, diving, and here, so on the right, people could insert new statements. On the left, they could review statements that other humans had created. So, on the ocean somewhere that coral reefs can be, and then we can say yes, no, or doesn't make sense. They had also a very interesting extension to their gathering effort in a game called Verbosity. It's a two-player game inspired by Taboo. There is a narrator and a guesser playing together, and the narrator must describe a word by filling blanks in templates. So the narrator can say it is a kind of tool, or it is used for typing, or it is near a computer. And the guesser only sees the object filled in, has to guess the subject, and the faster the guesser can guess the right term, the more points both of them score. And so these statements naturally give rise to CSK assertions. If I say keyboard is typically near a computer, and there's a statement that can be fed into our knowledge base. So these statements were also fed into ConceptNet, and they have a particularly high quality. So over 85% of sentences were rated as correct by 6 annotators, a full agreement. And yeah, this played a smaller role in the overall data extraction pipeline. A very recent project from 2019 is Atomic. So Atomic targets event knowledge. So for example, that person X starts drinking, what are the causes to start drinking? Maybe to relieve stress, or maybe just to get hydrated, or maybe to get buzzed. So there's different possible reasons. And a person that drinks is seen as thirsty, or unrefreshed, or maybe depressed. What kind of effects does it have, and so on. And this project is an archetype of large-scale paid crowdsourcing. So this was a project run by Allen Institute of AI with appropriate funding. So they started with 24,000 event phrases extracted from a text corpus. Then they let 3 workers for each subject fill forms that we see here on the right-hand side. Given the event person X pays person Y a compliment. So what does person X need to do beforehand? What does person X want to do afterwards? How does it affect the other people, for example, person Y? And yeah, they could fill free text, getting paid about $12 an hour, created a total of 300,000 statements. And so if we do the math, I don't know exactly how much time was allocated per task, but if you assume 5 minutes per task were given, then the cost of this whole project is in the order of $100,000. And it's an impressive resource for event knowledge. 300,000 statements, very fine-grained. Again, there are some redundancies. So if we see here, person X starts drinking. As a result, they want to drink until they get drunk. They want to get drunk. Nearly the same. They want to forget problems. They want to drown away worries. More or less the same. So that's a challenge in collecting textual statements, but nonetheless very impressive effort. Then here we have a much smaller effort, but I've been personally involved, so I can give some useful lessons. So here we wanted to collect evaluation data for our Quasimodo knowledge base. So we didn't use the crowd workers to actually generate the knowledge base, but just to get, for a small slice, some data that should be in there. So we collected from, I think, 6 workers for 100 subjects, a few statements. So we asked them to complete sentences starting with the subject. Surgeons are the ones who operate. Surgeons are medical specialists. Surgeons work in operating rooms. Surgeons have a good salary. These are statements that people spontaneously think of without any further guidelines. Just it had to be statements starting with the subject. And so here we see the actual crowd setup. This used a platform called Crowdflower. So We're giving here examples. So for an elephant, possible general sentence: elephants are gray, elephants live in Africa, elephants have big ears. And the guidelines are very short. So write full grammatical sentences. There should be a verb inside, not just a word cloud. Should be general and shouldn't be personal knowledge. I've seen an elephant last week. That's not a general knowledge. And this was the interface that the workers then saw. And nonetheless, there were still quite some misunderstandings. So people still put in personal knowledge, wrote in different languages, just wrote word clouds. So in this case, we didn't do a second round of filtering, but what one could do is to have, again, crowd workers annotate the results of other crowd workers to do a further filtering. Another, I wouldn't really call it crowd worker because it's not a paid project or anything, but it's volunteers project, is Wiki Data. So Wiki Data is a collaborative knowledge-based construction effort under the umbrella of the Wikimedia Foundation. And on encyclopedic knowledge, it's today arguably the best publicly available source. Common sense knowledge, there's less in there. But it's growing. Unlike other projects, which are usually one-off projects like ConceptNet or so, Wiki Data is continuously growing, and more details are in this paper on archive. And so to summarize, crowdsourcing and human data collection, I've listed here the main projects, their focus, the number of statements, just to get an impression. So we're going from about 200,000 statements up to 1.6 million, 2 million statements. So what these projects have in common, they are always limited by the effort of volunteers or by the money available. Nonetheless, as Atomic shows, for a targeted domain, this knowledge-based construction is in a short time possible in production scale, especially for commercial players. And in common to all these projects is quality assurance is an issue, and so one should have either reviewing steps where annotators review the work of other annotators, have some automated filtering, or in some way check the quality. Thanks.